So I'll just shoot you like that. Okay, hold on, please.
When you say you're a sculptor, people often ask what medium you work in, whether it be wood or marble or metal. And that's not really what I do. What I like to think of as maybe sculpture of the everyday. Themes of death or magic, vaudeville. In sort of a way to keep that lighthearted, I try to come at it at a very comedic angle. Props and real material in impractical situations, or how can we consider the theatrical qualities? Objects that have had a certain presence over a period of time have been worn, have some wear and tear to them. And I think that often coincides with the vaudeville aspect of the work. I never really start a project knowing exactly how it's going to end up. I think of myself pretty rigidly as a sculptor, and I would like my work to remain in that lexicon. I don't want to venture out or consider myself a performer or reenactor or anything other than a sculptor. Largely, I arrived at working this way and thinking about Harry Houdini and his relationship to stage and disappearing, and how that often can be interpreted as a metaphor for death, how he was a great escape artist or someone who cheated death oftentimes, and how all of his work was made by himself. He made all his props and all his chains and handcuffs, and how that is profoundly a sculptural practice as well.
So right now I'm painting a still life of 3 objects. I started wanting more space and depth in my paintings. So I started working from life. Painting from life is like a very intense and responsive process for me, and I feel like it when it's going really well, it feels trance-like almost, and I think that it's not so much that I want to paint a really accurate picture of anything, like for it to really have form, but for it to be like not clear exactly what was being depicted. Form and emotion or feeling in a painting have to be working in tandem. And yes, I mean, so much of what that means is what you are figuring out as you're making it. I don't have a regular beginning and ending point for paintings. That's something that is like a big part of the process for me, is figuring out where something's going when it's done, what I want from it. You keep going on a painting until you feel that you have evoked or described something very specific. It's very important to me that my work is to me and feels to others to be personal and very specific. And I do think that that is about, in part, about internal exploration that happens while painting in response to other paintings and other things and just life. And, you know, that's definitely a place of me
Yeah, but you choose to make something
Mm-hmm.
with that. So so if you can.
Yeah, I think that the images and objects that I collect and that sometimes become artworks, it's a very kind of varied process. Some of the things are photographs that I've taken myself, some things from my home, some things from flea markets. The things that I'm attracted to, though, you know, there'll just be something in the image that kind of speaks to me in a certain way, like say images that have sculptures or like things made of stone or a certain kind of landscape, and how I find them, it's always different. But generally I sit with things for a really long time and I have them around me for a really long time, and that's how the kind of selection process kind of how things become works or don't become work. Some of the things that I have on the floor I've had in my archive for like 3 years, or I've been looking at for 3 years, and it's only now that they're kind of, it's turning into something, or it's becoming related. It's relating to other works that I'm making, other sculptures that I'm making. Like an awful lot of the images at the moment that are in my studio I feel have something to do with the kind of a flow of something or energy or objects, or, and I feel like the sculpture that I'm actually working on at the moment is related to this kind of idea. But that's something that I always kind of come to through this kind of long process of like thinking, making things, and looking at the images over and over again, blowing them up, or looking at them, you know, to kind of presenting them in different ways for myself. I use a very minimal aesthetic to present things, and I'm very particular about that kind of thing. But there definitely isn't one particular goal, and I don't think that there's ever. I don't really work on series, even though like say these images together may have the appearance of being like a series of images. I think it's more like I think that they have to kind of be together, but I don't see them as being a series. I don't think that it's ever like a finished piece of work. Oh, I move on to the next thing. I think it's like something that's always changing and evolving, and I think the more like simple forms that I make, especially sculpturally, it's kind of, even though I kind of don't always try to make a piece that relates to the last piece that I made, it always ends up relating somehow, even if I try to escape it or change the material.
I think that sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's always better to say.